Culture, culture, culture. To paraphrase Taylor Swift, trying to sort culture is like trying to sort a crossword puzzle which has no answers. And to give you an example of this, I'm working with a client at the moment who is trying to solve their own culture puzzle this way. There's a values workstream, a culture audit, a well-being agenda, a programme of changing working patterns, diversity and inclusion push, emphasis on safety and better accident reporting, embedding continuous improvement mindset, or did I mention the massive restructure and recent acquisition? So all of this adds up to a really confusing picture. It's hard to see how things hang together. There's a lot of activity and possibly not a lot of sense, which is not great for culture as a starting point. Now I'm a realist, so sometimes that's how it is internally. But long term, if there's activities happening here and other activities happening there, and we don't join them up, it means that a cohesive culture with an enduring story simply can't happen. It gets too small, it gets too fragmented. And we do fragment and box in organisations. It makes ticking so much easier. But it means that we talk at each other, not with. And this boxy approach to culture is convenient, but it's not how we are. The reality of our organisational life is much more like a murmuration of starlines. It moves, it shifts, it's dynamic, it's based on conversations, it's based on relationships, and there is not a box in sight. So when I'm working with a client on a murmuration mindset, it's about identifying the conversations and relationships which support positive, productive culture, and what spaces can we create for those conversations. So some basic points. Start with what's actually going on now. After a restructure, that does things to the dynamic in your organisation. So the temptations toward shiny, Google, Uber funkiness, all that stuff can come later. Work with what you have at the moment. Work with the reality. Understand your mindset, your change mindset. We surround ourselves with people who look like us and sound like us and act like us. Unconscious bias exists. And what it means is that we're not open to new ideas. It's a risk of monoculture. Is there space for counterculturalism? And I am not talking about disruption. What I'm talking about is what's at the edge of your sector, what's new, what's distinctive, what's disagreeable, and how do you incorporate that? If you're working in a murmuration, it requires leaders and managers to be more connected, not less. The invitation is get out from behind your desk or your role or your function and start talking to each other. It's about breadth and accessibility. Face-to-face spaces become really important, even virtually. Because they're powerful, you need to upskill your facilitators, and we need to make content share internally more interesting, just less boxy. So what does that mean for you, for me, for the exhibition closing? What conversations do we need to create? Know yourself. Be aware of what you will and won't tolerate, including background noise. What are you agreeable to? What are you going to be unreasonable about? Because all of these impact the culture that you create around you. So sometimes you're amazing, you're open, you're helpful, you're smart, you might even be wise. And other times, you're closed, you're small, you're defended, you're a bit of a git. So just understand what drives you back crap crazy and work to overcome it, because once you understand how to not go there again, it means you're creating a culture where your inner git doesn't run rampage. So when IT annoy you, or when leaders dismiss you, you can flip out, or you can learn how to not have that conversation again. We can role model to our staff and peers. We can get bigger. We can learn. So bring your noble, your awesome, your shiny, your brilliance, your kindness, your compassion, and if you can't find them, go hunt them out, because your culture needs you. We have the opportunity to light up shadow spaces. In the aftermath of a restructure, people were feeling bereft. We can create places where people can talk about that. And despite the apparent speed of a murmuration, you need to accept the pace of the collective. Rushing rarely works. Powerful actions and purposeful conversations do. So go slowly, go gently, no sudden moves. So, to help Taylor Swift in her crossword endeavours, I would say, be more starling. Thank you very much.